All right, you guys, so for Tuesday, we're gonna be starting off our workout with the normal warm-up that you guys would normally do. The forward circles, the other way, back and forth overhead, back and forth front of the chest, that whole thing. We'll attach a video in the Facebook group. If you guys don't remember that, we'll put that in there so you guys can see that. But for today's workout, what do we have, what do we got going on? So today, you guys, we have our startup of a 3 to 5 minute jog. We are going to be incorporating some sort of running in today's workout, so we do want you to get a little bit of that in. If you have a rowing machine or a stationary bike at home, yes, that would be fine, but ideally we're gonna be able to get out there and put some distance on the feet. So today, you guys, once you're done with that, we're gonna go into 2 sets of 50 feet on most of these drills. We've got it broken up 25 feet forward and backwards on these, but we're gonna start out with a walking high knee. Okay, not necessarily a running high knee to where you're doing that very quickly, but something nice and smooth to where you're working on pulling that knee up towards your chest to try and get those hips and your hamstrings loosened up a little bit. After that, we're gonna go into 50 feet of the skipping or that bounding where you're jumping high off the ground. Again, 50 feet won't take you very long to go through. Then we're gonna go into 25 feet of this hurdle step over. We're gonna do 25 feet forwards and then 25 feet going in reverse or backwards. That one's a little bit trickier. So if you need to do that stationary, that's totally fine. We're looking at a good dynamic movement where we're getting our hips really loosened up and through a good range of motion. After that, we've got the walking high kicks. This is gonna be with 2 straight legs, okay? We want both legs completely locked out. And another reminder on that is to try and keep your heel down on the ground on the leg that's posted. Okay, so when you do go to kick that leg up nice and high, don't just bend your knees and go up onto your toes. We want to get those hamstrings loosened up for this workout today. So part A today, we've got, again, we're starting out, I know, beautiful handwriting, right? Where's Stacy and Lacey at when you need them? But we've got a 10-minute run to start out today. This can be at whatever pace that you are feeling. So if you are, again, let's say newer to running, or maybe you just haven't with the weather the last couple months, it's been a little But if you haven't been putting a lot of distance in, just get out there and move for 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be incredibly fast. I just want you guys to get your heart rates up and get a little bit sweaty as we start to work on developing that running a little bit more. We are going to keep running, so you might as well work on it. After that, you're gonna go right into a body weight workout that starts out at 2 reps on what we call a touch jump. Okay. From there, you're gonna go back and forth between the touch jump and the stationary lunge. Okay. It goes 2 reps and 2 reps, and 4 reps, and 4 reps, 6, 6, 8, 8, all the way up to 20 and 20. Once you hit the 20 lunges, you're done, okay? Tons of different ways to modify this, and we'll explain that here in just a second. But following this, we've got some good cool down work. Today, you guys, on this, we've got a 5-minute cool down, okay? So you can do a stationary bike, you can go walk. If you've got an erg or anything like that, you can do that, that's fine. But just getting out there and walking is gonna be okay. After that, we're gonna go into 2 minutes on each side on a elevated hamstring stretch or an elevated foot hamstring stretch, where we look at getting that leg loosened up, followed by a standing quad stretch, just a classic good old quad stretch, followed by a figure 4 stretch to get those hips loosened up. After all of that, we're gonna go into a little bit of back mobility, doing a little bit of that cat-cow for 20 total reps. All right, so on the touch jumps, just to make sure that we're clear on what we're looking to do, we're looking at hinging at the hip to be similar to a kettlebell swing. So if you do have a kettlebell and you want to substitute this out for an American swing, that's totally fine. But the touch jump, your feet should be about shoulder width apart, and you're gonna hinge at that hip with a good flat back. We're reaching down towards the ground. If you can touch the ground, awesome. If you're a little bit short, that's totally fine. But we're hinging at the hip, looking to bend our knees a little bit at the bottom, but keeping our hips fairly high. Neutral spine the whole time. After I get to the bottom position, I'm gonna reach up, hands overhead, and then I'm gonna jump and explode off the ground. So it'll look like this. Really think about opening up those hips at the top of every rep as best as you can. And for the next part, we've got a stationary lunge. If you wanted to do this like a traveling lunge, that's totally fine, where you step forward, or you could even do a reverse lunge. My personal preference is to do the reverse lunge every time. Just feels a little bit better on my knees. For that reverse lunge or stationary lunge or traveling, however you want to do it, we want to make sure that we get our knee to the ground or as close as we can without really driving it into the actual ground. If you're doing this on hardwood floors or concrete, just be careful with your knees, okay? But we reach back, tap the knee to the ground, and then stand tall. When I'm going through this, I want to try and make sure that my knee is at about 90 degrees between my upper and my lower leg. I don't want to be stepping too far back because that's going to make it really challenging. And then also on the other side, I don't want to be too short or close together with my feet because that also makes it a lot harder. So when you reach back, good comfortable distance, knee at about 90 degrees, and stand tall. The next one that we're going to do is going to be an actual elevated foot hamstring stretch. So we're going to put our foot right on top of a bench, a seat, whatever you want, at whatever height you want. If you are feeling pretty flexible and you want to get that foot up a little bit higher, maybe go on the back of the couch or something like that, okay? But I'm looking at straightening out my leg and then keeping my hips squared up towards my foot or that point of contact with that bench. From here, I'm going to hinge at my hip, loading that hamstring. And notice that even when I'm fairly flexible in my hamstrings and my hips, this position, if I'm truly keeping that neutral spine, is going to load that hamstring right away. So I don't necessarily need to try and lean forward and round my back right away, but I want to try and think, again, load the hamstring. So turn your hips in, neutral spine, hinge at the hip. You'll feel that probably pretty quickly unless you're a little bit on the hypermobile side. Then yes, you can go into a little bit more, seeing if you can find that stretch. But we don't need to crank on this. You're gonna hold it for 2 full minutes on each side. So it's a little bit of a longer stretch, but do that. Your hamstrings will thank you. Next one that we've got for our mobility and our cool down today is going to be the classic kind of quad stretch or a runner's stretch. So we're going to go ahead and pick up our foot and we're going to stretch out that quad and possibly that hip flexor if you're pretty tight. But when you do this, I want you to try and keep your knee down and underneath your hip, okay? All while still being careful to not overextend that back, okay? Think about keeping those ribs pulled down and then squeeze your butt if you want a little bit more of a stretch, trying to open that hip up. That'll give you a good stretch for the hip flexor and the quad on that right side. For 2 minutes on each side. Again, if you want to do this in a laying down version or something like that, that's totally fine, but don't be afraid to hold on to something for a little bit of balance. All right, for this next one that we've got for our mobility and our cool down today, it's good classic cat-cow. We're looking at getting that good rounding of our back and then that good extension through our back. We don't want to do this when we're going through, any sort of repetition or, loaded positions. This is a mobility exercise, so we're not trying to create compression or anything through the back. We're just trying to get all those joints and vertebrae moving, okay? So what this is going to look like, down in somewhat like a push-up or a tabletop position. And when I go into this first one, I'm gonna think around my back, I'm gonna go into that cat position, kind of thinking also pushing away from the ground and even thinking about tucking my hips underneath me, okay? From here, I also wanna tuck the chin just a little bit. That way I'm getting that good rounding throughout my whole spine, not just in my low back or my neck. I'm working on everything from my tailbone all the way up to my skull. Again, there's the cat position, and then on the other side is going to be the cow position, okay? So from here, then I'm going to go ahead and look up and get a gentle stretch throughout my whole back, not trying to cause any sort of hyperextension in one point, but that whole global extension of the spine. Again, you guys, that was our Tuesday workout. I hope you attack this with some good intention, good energy, and have some fun with it. That whole Can't Talk Tuesday thing that we used to have, that can still apply for this today. If you burn it down, awesome, get after it, have some fun. But just remember, we're here to exercise and have a good time. And we just want to say thank you for really supporting our community and giving us a chance to really make sure that we are doing the best things for you guys and helping you improve your health and wellness, even when we're not able to get the doors open. So thank you again. I really appreciate it. From all of the Iron+Mortar staff to you, we appreciate you.